everyone! Today I'm here with a video that I've never done before in my life, and it is an unhaul video. I'm normally the kind of person who can't ever get rid of things, so I keep everything. But lately I've been into a habit of, if I read the book, I didn't particularly like it or think I'm never gonna revisit it again, I'm just gonna get rid of it because I don't have enough space to keep all the books, especially also just looking at the shelves, seeing those books that I didn't particularly enjoy doesn't bring me any kind of joy, so I might as well get rid of them. I do have three categories here. I've got one for the book club, the Fairyloot books, and the largest part is like random books that I've bought before and decided to get rid of them. And I'm going to start with the random section because that one has a bit of a mixture of different genres, different reasons and things. Considering of how many books there are in these piles, I'm not going to talk about them in detail. I'm just literally gonna tell you maybe a couple of bits about its genre or whatever and the reason why I'm getting rid of it. So don't expect it to be a detailed video because, like I said, there are so many books to get through and I don't want this video to last forever, so I'm just going to briefly touch upon some things and that's it. The very first book, I'm actually unsure whether I want to get rid of it. It is The Labyrinth of the Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is a beautiful book. This one is the fourth book in his Cemetery of Forgotten Books series, and that is the very last book of his because sadly he passed away in 2020 from cancer, which makes me reluctant to get rid of this book because I'm only getting rid of this because I've got a copy in Russian and the first three books in that series is in that same edition in Russian that I bought in Russia. So when I got the fourth book from that same series in Russian in the same edition, I didn't really need to keep this one because it's the English copy and I've never read his books in English before, so it would be a bit strange. But now, considering he's passed away, I'm not sure whether I actually want to get rid of this book because I really love his books. I've read everything he'd written. So apart from this last one, I've still yet to read that one. But for that reason, I'm not sure whether I want to get rid of this edition or not. Anyway, moving on to different books. We've got The Lost Magician by Pierce Torday. This one is a middle grade fantasy about this library that nobody can really see apart from these children. Then they go one day to find this magician who's created the library and there's supposed to be some kind of adventure. I think I've read half of this book, maybe a little bit more, and DNF'd it. I was not into it, I was bored, I didn't particularly like it. That's why I'm getting rid of it. The Whisper Man by Alex North. This one is a thriller book, as you can probably see, murder mystery even. So in this one there's a man who kidnaps children by whispering their name. I think that's all you need to know. I enjoyed this book. It wasn't amazing. It was like a 3-star book for me, even though I don't think I rated it in Goodreads because at the time I kind of stopped using Goodreads. But anyway, so I don't particularly want it, even though I enjoyed it at the time. But with books like this, you already know what's happened, even though I've forgotten. But still, I don't think I'll ever reread this one. Although, it's really pretty on the inside. Next one is Under My Hat, Tales from the Cauldron by a bunch of different authors. And the light is being reflected in this one. This one is, like I said, a short story collection essentially about witches and all that kind of thing. It took me forever to read this book because I was just not into it that much anyway. A lot of the stories were kind of boring. I didn't particularly like them. Some of them were okay, some of them were good, some of them were not quite so good. So I don't particularly want it on my shelf. Next one is Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I really enjoyed Illuminate, which I still surprisingly have on my shelf. And I'm not going to get rid of that one. But this one I actually DNF'd. I think it was like the first quarter or whatever of the book. I found this book boring and I thought, well, what if I push through? I just could not push through, so I just decided to give up on the series and get rid of this one because I never finished it. The next two are quite similar to each other. So we've got The Guest Cab by Takashi Hirade. This one is a Japanese book about this couple who live together, don't really talk to each other anymore until one time when there's this cat who enters their life and they slowly start to talk to each other again. For some reason, I just didn't find it quite as intriguing or as interesting, and yeah, I didn't particularly connect with it, so I'm getting rid of it. Similarly though, If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. Again, set in Japan. We've got this guy who gets a deal with the devil so that he will live a day longer if he gets rid of one thing a day that people will have to live without, if that made any sense. I thought I'd enjoy this book a lot more, but I didn't for some reason. Again, it just took me a long time to get through it, such a small book. And I was never interested in it enough, so I just found it boring and never really wanted to read it again. Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is the first book in the trilogy. I don't think I even finished the book. I don't actually remember. Did I even finish it? Anyhow, I really enjoyed the first half of the book, and then the second half just turned into soppy romance, which I was not into at all. It just took me out of the story, and it feels like that's the only thing that I was focusing on, so I was never interested in that in the first place. So I just think I DNF'd it, but now I don't even remember. I think I DNF'd it. Anyway, I enjoyed the Strange the Dreamer, the book by the same author. I've never actually read the sequel. I've got the sequel, but now at this point I think I need to reread Strange the Dreamer and then go into the sequel. But this one was just not for me. I've heard so many great things about it, but it's just, I don't think it's for me. I think even if I push through, I just wouldn't, I don't know, I just didn't like it. Next one is Dragon Rider by Cornelia Funke, I think is how you say her name. I read her Inkheart trilogy, which I really enjoyed. Well, in fact, I really enjoyed the first book, and the second and third were a little bit strange, I thought, unnecessary. But this one was alright. Again, I didn't hate it. I thought it was alright, but nothing special, and I don't particularly want to reread it. There are some cute illustrations throughout the book though, kind of like old-fashioned illustrations, but it's just not something I enjoyed for some reason. It's just a nice, cute book, and I think it's the first in the series, but I never wanted to continue with the series because I think I was happy with how it ended. I never really needed to find out what was happening more, and I definitely don't want to keep it on my shelves. Then we've got Thin Air, a ghost story by Michelle Paver. This one is supposed to be based on real events, I think. It's set on the Sacred Mountain, biggest killer of them all. 5 Englishmen set out to conquer it, but courage can only take them so far, and the higher they climb, the darker it gets. It is, like it says, a ghost story, and the first more than half of the book I just found it boring. There were good bits on occasion, a bit freaky, but they weren't that often, and most of the book was just, I felt like it was boring, and everyone was so aggressive, unnecessarily aggressive towards each other. And only the last section of the book, the last maybe 50 pages, got me really interested in the book because things started to happen. But in general, I just think this is not the best of books. It wasn't what I wanted it to be, so I'm getting rid of it. The last one from general section is Welcome to Rosie Hopkins' Sweet Shop of Dreams by Jenny Colgan. This one is a obviously adult romance, general women's fiction, whatever you want to call it. I think I enjoyed it at the time, but again, there's nothing special about it. I don't particularly want to reread it again, so there's no need for me to keep it. It's like your normal 3-star typical book. So yeah, there's this woman who goes back to a village, I think, where, oh no, I remember now. So there's this woman who goes to take care of her great aunt or something, who can't really move now, so she basically needs to be taken care of. And then the main character, Rosie, finds a book of recipes, I think, or something, can't even remember, and then she opens a sweet shop. Oh no, that's because she found sweets that used to be a sweet shop, but now the sweet shop doesn't really exist, and so she decided to kind of revive it again and start it again. Sounds good, but I don't think I particularly enjoyed it. I found there was nothing special about this book. So the next section of this unhaul is the book club books, and the book club is, as usual, just one more page. The link will be down below. I love that book club, but I have had my moments with the times that I did not like the books or DNF them, or some things happened. So I've got 5 for here that I'm getting rid of. So the first one we've got is Bear Town by Frederick Buckman. I just could not get on with this book because there was so much about hockey. It's a big book. There was so much about hockey that seems like that was the only thing that the author was really concentrating on, and at one point it just got so much that I felt like, right, I can't do this anymore. So I just felt like, nah, I'm not going to carry on with this one. I think a lot of people from the book club really enjoyed this book though, but I just literally couldn't take it anymore. It's set in a small town when something bad happens, and it kind of separates the town into 2 halves, and one thinks that justice should be done, the other thinks it's fine, let's hush it up. I just couldn't deal with it at all. I've read one other book by this author. It was something, a long title like My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry or something like that. That one was a good one. I tried to read his other one, like a sequel or companion novel to that one. There was Brit Marie or something, can't remember. Couldn't get on with that one because the main character really annoyed me, but again this one couldn't read that one. Then we've got another DNF, and that is Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. That one I thought I was going to really enjoy it, and also it's a really pretty book, so I feel mean just getting rid of this one because look at it all. It's really pretty, and it's a hardcover book. And this one is based, I think, on real events. Not quite, the story didn't quite happen, but I think something similar happened, or based on a true story. So in this story we've got a boy who survived an airplane crash, the only survivor, and now it's talking about how he survives, how he deals with things. It sounds amazing, like for a book, but for some reason it was so detached from the main character and from everything. To me, the writing style felt so dry that I just could not push through. And I was interested to find out what happened to the plane, why it crashed, and the life of the boy. I felt so bad for him because he's only a 10-year-old boy, I think. It sounds like something I would like to read, but it's just, the writing style was so dry. It felt like almost it was reading a non-fiction, and a kind of really boring non-fiction. So I just couldn't push through it again, and I DNF'd it. Then we go into another DNF, and that is Dragonfly by Leila Meacham. This one is a historical fiction, World War II historical fiction, about a spy group, or rather a group of spies that go to Paris. My problem with this book was we had 5 different main characters. It was difficult to keep track of who is who. We kept going backwards and forwards from different perspectives, and I just got lost and not interested at all because there were so many of them that it's, like I said, it was difficult to keep track of who was who, and also I could not connect with any of them because there were so many. I did not care at all. I was kind of curious to read their story, what would happen, how them being spies in Paris during World War II would go, because I genuinely enjoy historical fiction set in period of World War II. This one though was a freaking exception. I did not like it. I found it boring, and I just DNF'd it again. The last 2 of these books, I have finished them, but I just don't think I'm ever going to reread them. So we've got Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This one, I kind of had weird emotions about this one. I didn't like the beginning, really hated the beginning. Then I started liking it more, so I kept changing my mind all the time. I was not a fan of the main character. I found her a bit, I don't know, too chaotic, and I think she hated herself to the point that it was unpleasant to read about. And just the choices that she made in life, it was uncomfortable for me to read about some of them. And there are quite a few sex scenes which I again didn't particularly like, so was not a fan of this book. But I know that this book was really popular at some point, but it just wasn't for me. The next one is probably the most interesting out of this pile, is My Sister the Serial Killer by, I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna try and pronounce the name because I'm sure I'm gonna get it wrong. But this one is like a thriller, murder mystery, and it's a short book. It felt a little bit strange because it was so short. But I did enjoy it. It's just I'm not going to ever read it again because I know what's happened and everything. So it was interesting. I enjoyed it. I think I even if you give it stars to it, it would be 4 stars, sorry. I think if I were to rate it, I'd rate it about 4 stars, but I'm just never going to reread it. So in this one we've got 2 sisters, and one of them always covers up for her sister's murders of her boyfriends, which sounds interesting. It was interesting, but something was off about this book. Not quite sure what it was. Maybe the disconnection with characters. And I also remember in the book club when we were discussing it, because the chapters are so short, some things were talked about briefly about some characters, and there were kind of gaps left, and all of the different group members of the book club, everyone came up with a different theory for why that would be without even thinking about it. So it was different theories, so everyone had pretty much different reading experience, which was actually quite curious because I don't think I've ever come across anything like this before. So it's interesting, but I just don't think I'm gonna ever reread this one. And the last section is, like I said, Fairyloot books. I used to be subscribed to them for a long time, for a year or almost 2 years, and then I enjoyed some of their books, which you can still see, I guess, here mostly. So I've kept them, but the rest of them are going because I don't want to keep them. I didn't particularly enjoy them. I still have quite a few actually left to read, so that shows that my interest for that particular subscription box kind of died away. I'm not subscribed to them anymore, but I've got a selection of books that I'd like to get rid of. So the first one is Grace and Fury by Tracy Bonhart. I just didn't particularly enjoy it, and with these ones I don't really remember their plot, and I'm not going to try to find out, so I'm just going to briefly mention them here. So there's this one, my very first one, by the way, that I ever got, so I was excited but was a little bit disappointed. Fire and Heist by Sarah Beth Durst. I think I enjoyed this one, but it was just too plain, too like nothing special, so getting rid of it. Heart of Thorns by Bree Burton. This one I feel like it took me forever to read this one, and I don't remember anything about this book, so it's going. The Beholder by Anna Bright. This one I didn't even finish. The concept sounded really interesting. We've got this girl who is going on an adventure to find a suitor for her because her kingdom is under some kind of threat, so she needs to save the kingdom. So it sounds good, but at the same time I just didn't like it. I couldn't get on with it, and I think I found the romantic interest a bit weird and how it was done a bit weird, so I never wanted to finish the book. Then we've got These Rebel Waves by Sarah Rash. I just, again, didn't particularly like it. There were some good moments in it, but not a lot to my personal taste. And the last one is probably a very unpopular opinion, but that is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, sorry. It is a pretty book, but I just didn't particularly like it. Again, I found it kind of boring. The plot wasn't going much anywhere, and yeah, I don't know, I just didn't particularly like it. And I feel like in general with YA fantasy, I kind of lost interest in it, so I don't read it as much of it now. I do still on occasion if it interests me, but mostly I just can't get on with it really well, so I tend to not read them as much as I used to. These are all of the books that I'm planning to get rid of as soon as, I don't know, libraries are open or charity shops. Most of it's probably going to go in their different charity shops in town. So yeah, sorry if any of these were one of your favourite books. I'm obviously not attacking anyone with that, it's just they weren't for me, or I just don't want to have them anymore, so it's not an attack on anybody, obviously. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, that is it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye!